Okay, dear students, you are once again welcome to this lecture of research methods, and we are continuing to look at literature review, and I'm still your course facilitator, Dr. Mark Kahwa, from the Faculty of Education at Mountains of the Moon University. In this lecture, we are now going to look at the types of information to review. We have been talking about reviewing literature. But what are some of the types of information that you can review? And I know that is a question that should be ringing in your mind. So here we say that look for relevant theories. Be sure you should know all relevant theories that can explain a phenomenon. So as you review the literature, you look at the different theories and see if any of those theories is relevant to your own current study. Then two, look for information on what has been previously done on your research question, and what has not been previously done, and what you can do when you come in to investigate this aspect of this question. Look for information concerning methodology. Methodology here we mean how the entire research can be conducted. So as you review literature, you must take keen interest to look at what other scholars have done, what methods did they use, how did those methods work for them, and what are other considerations you can take in order maybe to replicate those methods. Look for information on data analysis. This is also very key. You need to know the data analysis methods to be used. You know, members, you don't first of all decide on the data analysis techniques at the time of analyzing the data. You will have already thought about the data analysis techniques at the very start. When you are setting your research questions, your research objectives, you already know what kind of data analysis techniques that you will need. But as you review literature, here we are saying that you also take keen interest to see what did these other previous scholars, how did they analyze their data? And what were the findings? How did the results come out? And so on and so forth. Now, select literature that is relevant or closely related to the problem and purpose. Emphasize the primary sources. Primary sources are original research reports. These can include the journals, the research reports presented at the conference, and so on and so forth. Use secondary source selectively. Secondary sources summarize primary sources. These are those materials written by an author who was not a direct observer or participant in the events described. So we say that the secondary sources, we should pay attention to them. We should, when we are searching for information, we should look at them. But we are being cautioned that we should, engage with them with caution. Why? Because they are not original. They also just summarize the already previously published works. So types of literature. So there are majorly three types of literature. We have the primary literature, the secondary literature, and the tertiary literature. Just three types. Now, when we talk of the primary literature, now these are original research and or new scientific discoveries. Now, immediate results of research activities often includes analysis of data collected in the field or the laboratory. Examples here, we have the original research published, like the articles in peer-reviewed journals. We have the dissertations, we have the technical reports, we have the conference proceedings. So all these are relevant examples for the primary literature. And members, what we are emphasizing is that you as a scholar, what you should take serious and where you should put much of your attention are the primary literature. Why? Because with the primary literature, you are getting first-hand information. You are not synthesizing and analyzing the already done results just like what we do with the secondary literature. The second one is the secondary literature. Now, these summarize and synthesize the primary literature, usually broader and less current than the primary literature. Examples are the literature review articles and then books. The third is the tertiary literature. This summarizes or condenses versions of materials, usually with references to primary or secondary sources. Good place to look up facts or get a general overview of a subject. And examples here are the textbooks. Examples are the dictionaries, the encyclopedias, the handbooks, and so on and so forth. So those are the three. But out of the three, what we emphasize and what we recommend are the primary literature. Now, selecting sources. You may choose to read one key secondary source that summarizes primary sources, then go and read the important primary source and use these in the paper. Looking at reference lists on primary sources is extremely useful. Never cite secondary literature. Go to primary sources and see what the authors actually found. So this is now what we talk about selecting sources. We can continue. Now we can continue, and when we continue now, we want to look at the literature. What literature should you review? And we can now take a short break. When we return, we shall look at what literature or what kind of so when we return, let us now go for a small break. When we return, we shall look at the literature, what kind of literature you can review, the different sources or the different resources you can review in regard to the article that you are investigating, or in regard to the manuscript that you are investigating. We go for a break now. When we return, we shall pick on from there. Okay, so dear students, you are welcome once again to this lecture. We are continuing with the literature review, and I'm still Dr. Mark Kahwa, the course facilitator from the Faculty of Education, Mountains of the Mon University. In this lecture, we are going to look at what kind of literature you should review. Because we are talking of reviewing the literature, but you might ask yourself, where do you find this literature? How do you get it? This is what we are going to look at in this lecture. So the first one is the journal articles. So these are good, especially for up-to-date information. They are frequently used in the literature reviews because they offer a relatively concise, up-to-date format for research. So depending on the publication, these materials may be refereed or non-refereed materials, but in most cases, all the journal articles go through the peer review, the peer review system, and they are very authentic, they are very up-to-date, and they are good for you to consult them as you write your manuscript. You can also review books. There are many books And now with the advancement of technology, we have so many e-books, electronic books online. And remember that books tend to be less up to date, so it takes longer for a book to be published than for a journal article. So they don't encourage you to use so many books. So they are still likely to be useful they are still likely to be useful for including in your literature review, as they offer a good starting point from which to find more detailed and up-to-date sources of information. So these are books, and we are saying we have quite a number of them online, depending on the topic of investigation. Conference proceedings. Conference proceedings are also very good materials that you can use to review your work. And this can be useful in providing the latest research or research that has not been published. They also helpful in providing information about people in different research areas, and so can be helpful in tracking down other work by the same researchers. So that is the conference proceedings. And of course, the conference proceedings, just to add on, these are as a result of the international conferences. When you attend an international conference, you make a presentation, you present a paper, so those papers are subjected to peer review, and once they are peer reviewed, they are returned to you. We now proceed to government or corporate reports. Many government departments and corporations, commissions carry out research. So their published findings can provide a source of useful source of information depending on your field of study. So these corporate reports are there on different aspects of life. So we always have these reports on education, on health, on agriculture, and so on and so forth. So we have the newspapers. Since the newspapers are generally intended for a general or not specialized audience, so we don't encourage you really to cite or to review newspapers. But the newspapers can be very important because they will kind of like open up your mind. They can, cite some areas that have not been doing well. So that is what we call Okay. So here what I wanted to say is that the newspapers are not very authentic, but they can assist you because they will give you general information on which you can, from which you can get a basis to further your research. But they are not academic. So newspapers are not academic, and we don't encourage authors to cite them and quote them for their work. But they will give you general information. They can give you information maybe on the study that you are conducting, or they can give you information on any other area as you move on with your research. Then tests and dissertations, sometimes these are published online, and these can give you very useful information for your research. The internet, the fastest growing source of information is on the internet. So internet can also provide you with a lot with vast information which you can use to improve the quality of your work. So we can stop here, go for a break. When we return, we shall pick on from here.